Hi guys, how are you all doing? This is the Tennis World of the Tennis Expert. I am your tennis expert. Welcome to your 2026 year in preview. I'm going to preview the whole year. So in 2024, Sinner got 2 Grand Slams, so did Alcaraz. Same in 2025. Of course, I feel like they're going to continue their dominance. But also, what we're seeing in 2025 is Fonseca. In 2024, he went from 700 up to, I think it was about 140 in the world. And then in 2025, he went from 140 to 25. So then if you look at that improvement and he's going to keep going, he's definitely 20, he's around mid 20s, let's say around 25. 15 more places just to get in the top 10. Of course, he's going to do it. The question is, does he make the top 10 like around 9 or 10? Or is he number 3 in the world behind Sinner and Alcaraz? When I say number 3, I'm not predicting him to be like a big 3, like on Sinner and Alcaraz's level this year, where there's like Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic in a big gap. I'm still saying there's going to be Sinner and Alcaraz like at the top, and then there's going to be like a very big gap. But could he be like 3rd in the world at the head of this other group, and Sinner and Alcaraz still way ahead of him and everyone else? Or does he get like 9, 10, 8 in the world? It's going to be somewhere between 10 and 3 in the world. I'm going to say Fonseca's going to finish. But I'm going to give you number 3 and not close. Sinner and Alcaraz are still going to be like now probably 5,000 points ahead of everybody else. And Fonseca will still be with that other pack, but he'll probably be the leader of that pack. So I'm going to guess 3, but it can depend on injuries, confidence, ups and downs. He'll be somewhere between 9, probably 9 to 3 in the world. Sinner and Alcaraz are going to be top 2. Some people are saying Sinner, and they keep saying that he's very consistent, and that's why he's going to be number 1. But I actually say like, Sinner didn't win a Grand Slam till he's 22. Alcaraz won at 19, right? Sinner became consistent at 22. But then we're saying, why is Alcaraz not consistent? Because he wasn't 22 yet. Just like before 22, Sinner wasn't winning Grand Slams. This year in 2025, in May, this past year, Alcaraz turned 22, the age that Sinner won his first Grand Slam. Guess what? He won Monte Carlo. He made the final of Barcelona, but he was injured. He won Rome. He won the French Open. He won Queens. He made the final of Wimbledon and lost to his rival Sinner. He won Cincinnati. He won the US Open. He won Japan. He made the final of the top 8. I don't think, like, when you talk about the Alcaraz being less consistent than Sinner, I think you're talking before he turned 22, at the same age when Sinner wasn't winning Grand Slams at all. But now we're in another phase. Those results from April to now, it's extremely consistent. So Sinner's lost points because he missed 3 months, but Alcaraz still has those January, February, March before he changed into this consistent player too at the same time. So Alcaraz is that consistent player now, like Sinner became in 2024, a year or so later, because he's younger. But he's there now, and Sinner's now, and they're both consistent from now, from starting in April 2025. They're both consistent. The inconsistent Alcaraz predates that, which he's grown. Just like in 2023, Sinner did not win a Grand Slam. At 21, 22, he won 2 Grand Slams, and he's not went back. So from this point forward, Alcaraz is going to be as consistent as Sinner. So those who say he won't be number 1 because of that, that is an outdated opinion. Since April 2025, he's been extremely consistent. So I'm going to say he's going to finish number 1. They're both going to be consistent, but just because a few of their finals, quite a lot of the tournaments will be decided by finals between them. And I just think Alcaraz wins more of their finals, so it'd be close, but I'm going to say Alcaraz is going to finish 1 again, Sinner 2. It'll come down to a few points. Then there's going to be a big gap between them and the rest of the pack, but I think Fonseca is going to be in that pack. And by the very end of the year, like November, he's probably just going to be at number 3, but literally like maybe like 100 points ahead of whoever's at number 4 and still like 5,000 behind Alcaraz and Sinner. He's going to be in that pack, but he's going to reach the top of the pack. If he gets injuries and there are a few more ups and downs than you'd think, he'd probably finish 8, 9, 10. But either way, Fonseca's going to move into the top 10 this year. As far as Grand Slams, will Fonseca be ready to win a Grand Slam? I would say it won't be till 2026 where he's going to jump out of this pack, the rest of the guys, and onto Sinner and Alcaraz level, and we're going to have a big three. We're going to have Sinner, Alcaraz, and Fonseca on that elite level, and a big gap between everyone else. But that won't happen until 2027. In 2026, he's going to rise to number 3 and be at the top of the pack, and probably a long way still behind Alcaraz and Sinner. By then, 2027, he's going to improve again, and he's going to reach Sinner and Alcaraz's level, and we're going to have a big three starting 2027. But this year, like I said, 3 to 9. Will anyone challenge Sinner and Alcaraz in Grand Slams? There is an outside chance that Fonseca, by the US Open, will be maybe the third favorite to win it. And if something happens to Sinner and Alcaraz, he can win it. Sinner and Alcaraz will be the favorites then, but there'll be maybe a 5 to 10% chance that Fonseca could win the US Open. But really, I'm not going to actually make that prediction because 5 to 10% is too low. The first 3 Grand Slams is almost a 0% anyone else wins. So I'm going to go for Sinner and Alcaraz are going to win the Grand Slam. I'm going to say they're going to win 2 each. I think Alcaraz does better on the slower courts, right, guys? Sorry about that. Yeah, I think he does better on the slower court. So the US Open is the slowest court is clay, French Open. Alcaraz wins that. The US Open is a slower hard court, so slower than Wimbledon and the Australian Open. And that's one of the reasons why Alcaraz did better. Even if you go back to 2022, Alcaraz beat Sinner at the US Open then too. And then, but Sinner was better on grass at Wimbledon. Same thing this year. So I just going to say that Australian Open and Wimbledon, I generally think they're faster, low bouncy courts. They suit Sinner. US Open, slow hard court, and the clay. I'm going with Alcaraz as a better player. But then there's something to throw in there. Alcaraz is desperate to win the Australian Open. He was going for the career Grand Slam, and he's good on hard court. He won the US Open. Even the fastest court we have, indoor courts, he made the final of the top 8. He was like at set point to win the first set against Sinner in Italy on a very fast indoor court. Then he was up 3-1 in the second set, and then the injury hit. And that was a worse court than any of the Grand Slams. And then I think when you add that and the will of Alcaraz really desperately to win this Australian Open, even though over the course of their careers, I'm going to say Sinner's better at the Australian Open, for this specific year, the desperation, the fact that it's the most important tournament of Alcaraz's career, he's just going to get it done this 1 year, but then he's just going to win the French Open, the US Open, because he's better there. Sinner's going to defend his Wimbledon title. I'm going to say 3 Grand Slams for Alcaraz, 1 for Sinner, but I think these guys are on the level where they should be winning 2 each. But I'm only saying this not because I see Alcaraz being better this year, but just because, like, when I predict 2 each, I predict Sinner to get Australian Open and Wimbledon and Alcaraz to get US Open and French. And that's the way I'm going to see it in most years. But I just think that, like, Alcaraz is so desperate for the Australian Open, that's just going to get him over the line. And that's the only reason I'm saying 3. Even though Sinner will be desperate at the French, I just think Alcaraz won their last hardcourt Grand Slam final. And when you add that with the desperation, and when you add that to, yes, the Australian Open's a faster court than the US Open, but the fastest indoor court, and in Italy with the crowd against him, he was 1 set from winning the set and 3-1, and the desperation, and beating him in the US Open final. I'm going to give it to him. So I'm going to say Alcaraz wins 3 Grand Slams. But I'm not very sure about the Australian Open. I'm 50-50 because I think Sinner's overall better at the Australian Open, but Alcaraz is more hungrier. So it's 50-50. So I'm going to just go for Alcaraz. But I'm saying Alcaraz will be better at the US Open and French, and he'll win that. Sinner will win Wimbledon. Australian Open's 50-50. I'm just going to go Alcaraz because of how badly he wants to win it. And these guys are going to win all the 4 Grand Slams and no one will be close. But by the US Open, the gap will be closed, would have closed. Fonseca would have caught up, not all the way up. He'll still be the third favorite and not like where it's like a big three. These 3 guys on a level and everyone else. There's still going to be these 2 guys on a level and everyone else. But Fonseca will be the best of everyone else. He'll be a third favorite at the US Open, but I don't think he'll get it done. I think Alcaraz will get it done. But that's the way I see the year. Sinner and Alcaraz still dominating. Sinner and Alcaraz still having that huge gap with everyone else. But Fonseca rising to be the best of the rest. And Fonseca being a legitimate threat by the US Open, but still clearly the third behind Sinner and Alcaraz. And then by 2027, Fonseca improving again and reaching that Sinner Alcaraz level. And by 2027, we have a big three: Sinner, Alcaraz, Fonseca, and then a big gap from everyone else. But by the end of this year, Sinner and Alcaraz, a big gap with everyone else, and Fonseca best of the rest. I think Fonseca will make probably a couple of semifinals this year and lose to Sinner or Alcaraz. Maybe a semifinal and a final, but yeah, I'm saying Sinner and Alcaraz again get the Grand Slams. Fonseca closes the gap a bit, and in 2027 he closes the gap. But that's the way I'm seeing it. Now, Djokovic still does have a chance because I think realistically, if Sinner gets sick a lot and Alcaraz gets injured from time to time, and if that happened on the same tournament, I really think that Djokovic would know this is his last chance ever. He's not going to win with Sinner and Alcaraz there. He's got one chance that's opened up that he's never going to get again, and he's going to throw everything he has at it. And with him throwing everything that he has at it and not having to beat Sinner and Alcaraz, maybe a Grand Slam final with him and Zverev or Fonseca, who's still inexperienced, Djokovic will take that opportunity to win a Grand Slam. And if one of them are injured and not another, and he meets them in a final, he definitely has a chance to win one more Grand Slam if he only has to beat one of them, but less than a 50% chance, so I won't predict that. But I would say if Sinner and Alcaraz, one of them loses, one of them has a health problem, they both have a health problem, Djokovic is going to know that's his last chance he's ever got to win a Grand Slam. He's going to throw everything at them, and if he comes from a complete state of desperation, this is my last chance, I'll never get it again, like the Olympics, and doesn't have to beat Sinner and Alcaraz, then he wins a Grand Slam. And I think he's waiting for that opportunity. That's why he's not retired, right? But I'm not going to predict him because that's on the basis of health problems for 2 players, which is less than a 50% chance. Fonseca could win, but again, that by the US Open, that's still only a 10% chance. So I'm going Sinner and Alcaraz to take the 4 Grand Slams. The only thing I'm not sure about is, will Sinner win Australian Open plus Wimbledon? And will Alcaraz win the French Open plus the US Open? Or will Alcaraz get 3 Grand Slams because he steals the Australian Open for Sinner because he's so desperate to get the career Grand Slam? I'm going to lean that Alcaraz will get the Australian Open and will win Australian Open, US Open, French Open, and Sinner gets Wimbledon. No one else gets a Grand Slam. Fonseca closes the gap. Djokovic is there the whole year that if anything happens to both Sinner and Alcaraz's health, he's ready to beat everybody else and take that opportunity. But if it presents it, Djokovic wins any of the Grand Slams, but I don't think it'll present itself. But that chance is always there in all the 4 Grand Slams. So Djokovic definitely does have a chance to win one of the Grand Slams, but I'm not predicting he'll do so. So does Fonseca, but I'm not predicting he'll do so. I'm saying Sinner and Alcaraz get all of them. The only question is that 3 Grand Slams for Alcaraz, 1 for Sinner, 2 each. The Australian Open will decide that. I'm saying 3 for Alcaraz, but I'm going to do my Australian Open preview in a few days. So please, guys, come back for that, okay? Subscribe, bell notification, thumbs up. Either Thursday, Friday, I'll preview the Australian Open, and I'll give you more of an up-to-date prediction there. But that's my 2026 year in preview and how I see things. Another point that I'd like to add, Sinner and Alcaraz. About these guys, like in their 10-6 head-to-head to Alcaraz, but the total points won in their 16 matches, they won the exact same amount of points. So what does that mean? It's the big points that are deciding, and no one player is playing better than the other, and Alcaraz is better in the big points. So a lot of their matches and a lot of the titles will be finals between them and the big points deciding it. That's why I'm very high on Alcaraz, because they will be in finals. The finals will be equal, and it will be the big points in final again in matches between Sinner and Alcaraz, deciding the Grand Slams. And in those big points in close matches between Sinner and Alcaraz, who's better? Alcaraz. So that's another point. But anyway, that's my preview for 2026 here. Subscribe, bell notification, thumbs up. Have a great day, night, wherever you are in the world. And please come back in 3 to 4 days for my Australian Open preview. I will preview the Australian Open when the draw comes out in 3 days. Come back for that. Subscribe, bell notification, thumbs up, and please subscribe. And see you guys in a few days for my Australian Open preview. Thanks for being with me, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and be back in a few days for my Australian Open preview. Subscribe, and see you guys in a few days. And thanks for being with me. This has been the Tennis World with the Tennis Expert. Bye for now.